The AWOS was reporting
wind 070 at 15, peak gusts 30.
About 4 miles from the airport when everything changed. 9 days earlier, another aircraft had been substantially damaged landing here at Vernal. On this day, I was arriving in my Cessna P210, and up to that point, I was planning to land on runway 35. When the new AWOS came in,
wind 100 at 14, peak gusts 28.
I did the math in my head. A quick calculation told me that runway 17 was now the obvious choice. The decision was easy. It was time to change runways. Staying with runway 35 would have meant accepting a quartering tailwind in a strong, gusty conditions. That's a dumb move. So I began turning to land up for runway 17. When conditions change, you have to be willing to change your plan. The runway you intended to use 5 minutes ago may no longer be the best choice. This wasn't the strongest wind I've landed in, but it had my full attention. The winds were gusty, and there was turbulence from the trees east of the runway. I carried about 90 knots on long final and slowed to about 80 knots crossing the fence. With 7,000 foot of runway, carrying a little extra speed helped stabilize the airplane with the gusts. For the landing, I used 20 degrees of flaps and a side slip. The idea is to stop the drift and keep the airplane aligned with the runway. In gusty conditions, the correction is never constant. The amount of aileron and rudder changes continuously as the wind changes. Before every landing, in conditions like this, I establish a decision point. If I cross the fence and cannot maintain runway alignment, I go around. No debate, no trying to salvage a bad approach, just go around and set it up again. The Cessna 210 is a very stable airplane in crosswinds, but conditions like this are never routine. In fact, if a landing in winds like this ever feels routine, you're probably getting ready to bend something. As pilots, it's easy to focus on the landing itself, but the most important part of this flight wasn't the touchdown, it was the decision that happened 4 miles from the airport. After receiving new information, reassessing, and adapting to changes in the conditions. 9 days earlier, another aircraft was damaged on this same runway. The lesson isn't about airplane type. The lesson isn't about pilot skills. This lesson is about preparation, currency, and understanding your abilities. The wind doesn't care what runway you plan to use. The wind doesn't care what worked yesterday. When conditions change, good pilots change with them. And if the airplane doesn't look right or doesn't feel right crossing the fence, go around. The goal isn't to beat the wind. The goal is to make good decisions, so luck never becomes part of the outcome.
Runway traffic, Centurion 639er, Foxtrot Sierra is down, cleared Alpha 4 Vernal.